So if you are relapsing, it means you are trying. And so when you relapse, you try to figure out why, you start over, and you keep doing that until it sticks, and you will get there. Why it is that processed junk, I won't call it food, processed junk is so hard to get off of. I just talked to somebody today who she had lupus nephritis, and with lupus, her diet literally consisted of, before her husband made her read my book, Goodbye Lupus. Before that, her diet was McDonald's for breakfast, Cheetos for a snack, Chick-fil-A for lunch, and cookies for dessert. And just, it was all junk food, fast food. Well, I said food, all junk and fast food and all that kind of stuff. And, even though the medicines helped keep her going, she ultimately got sick, right? And got sicker. And now she's in a crisis that I'm helping her out of. But, sometimes I think people feel like a failure, or they feel like they're weak if they are addicted to these things, right? But really, it's not your fault. If you're addicted to junk food, that's not your fault. You're addicted because it's designed that way. So it is actually a job as a scientist. There are food scientists whose job it is to work for processed companies, fast food companies, and it's their job to figure out the correct ratio of salt, sugar, and fats and other chemicals to make things as addictive as possible. There's a reason why once you pop, you can't stop. It's designed that way. It is designed to get people addicted, because if you're addicted, they make more money. They're trying to sell a product, right? And so I don't think it's their goal to kill people. I don't think there's anyone that evil working in these companies that say, let's try to make sure that we give as many people heart disease and kidney failure as possible. But they are in a business where they are trying to get you addicted to their product. Same thing happened in the cigarette industry. In the cigarette industry, they continued to use science to increase the addictiveness of smoking, increasing that nicotine and making their products more and more addictive because it was a business. It was up to the medical world to say not to do it. They're just business people, right? So if the medical world says it's bad for you, it's your choice whether or not to use it. It's the doctor's choice whether or not to tell you not to. But the cigarettes are so addictive, even the doctors themselves were addicted. And how are you going to coach your patient to do something that you're doing in between patients? Back in the day, they were doing it while they were seeing patients, right? It's the same thing now with the food industry, not with food that grows from the planet. That stuff is what we're built for. But I want you not to be hard on yourself or feel ashamed or feel weak-willed if you find yourself falling back on these things. There's a reason for it, and it's by design. This is why food addiction is right now the number one killer of people in the Western world. Number one. How do I say that? Because the number one killer of the Western world is still heart disease, which is caused by people eating the wrong things. Animal products, saturated fats. And then you go through, diabetes, cancers, autoimmune diseases. These are either caused or worsened by people's diets. And so for the most people on this planet, when you lose someone you love, it's not from an accident. It is from their diet. And that is excruciating. It's excruciating to me. Losing a loved one is the worst pain. Losing a loved one who didn't have to go because they didn't realize that their morning fast food habit or their snack that leaves their fingers red or whatever it is was killing them. They didn't know. And so they just kept doing what felt good. And what feels good is having that next cigarette, is having that next junk food snack. So my goal, and the reason I spend my time doing this, is to help you understand it so that you can save yourself. Because otherwise, whenever people say, just listen to your body, you cannot listen to your body when you're an addict. I've treated food addiction, I've treated drug addiction, I've treated cigarette addiction. An addict cannot trust their body because their body is addicted and it's telling them to go do that thing that's going to kill them, right? Just like that example I gave a while ago about how horses happily eat grass all day, right? But if you give them a sugar cube, they will happily and excitedly eat that. And I believe if you gave horses a choice between a pile of sugar cubes and a pasture, they would selectively eat only those sugar cubes until they became fat, sick, and dead. And that's what humans have done. We've done it to ourselves. We do choose. I don't think anyone buys the junk thinking it's healthy, but it's impulsive and compulsive because you're addicted. So how do you get over food addiction? The first step is you recognize that it's an addiction. It's not something to be ashamed of. It's a biological, physiological addiction. Your body is addicted to it. So number one, you recognize that you're an addict. All right. Then number two, you have to completely stop. Because if a person who smokes cigarettes even has one cigarette a week, all they can think about is smoking, right? If they quit, all they think about is smoking for a few weeks, but then it suddenly starts to taper off where they can go more and more without smoking, without thinking about smoking, and eventually it becomes a lesser and lesser part of their mind. And then at some point, they actually are grossed out by it. But if they even relapse once, and I was just talking to someone who quit smoking in the past, and we're talking about food addiction in our wellness session, that if she convinced herself to have a cigarette with her coffee, saying that's all I'm going to have, she would be instantly back to smoking 2 packs a day for months until she could get the willpower to stop again. And the other things you need are support, right? You need support. And where do you get that support? So if you're lucky, your family. I have worked with so many families where everybody does it together. The partners, the kids, they just decide they're going to live healthy and they do it together, and it is beautiful. And I know a lot of people whose partner refuses to, and who don't feel emotionally ready to fight with the kids about it and all that kind of stuff. Then you need other support. Maybe you go to meetup.com and find plant-based groups. Maybe you find some of it through Facebook. We have a free support group, Smoothie Shred. If you go to smoothieshred.com, you can join our free support group where people share their recipes and their successes and ask their questions and all that stuff. You can do that. Sometimes people need more aggressive support, like in, Alcoholics Anonymous, Overeaters Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, where they need to go to meetings every day. It's one of the reasons I created my rapid recovery programs, is to help people every day, because for a lot of folks, that first 4 to 6 weeks, they relapse often and need support to get back up again, right? So as you might be able to tell, I love to help people. I love to inspire people. I love to help them get their problems solved. And so one way or another, you are going to have to find support, because if you do it alone, most of the time you end up falling back on what's in your environment. And if your environment isn't safe and supportive, then you can relapse. So make sure you also find support, even if it's a friend who's willing to check in with you, anything, because you deserve it. And when you do those things, the addiction will go away. And eventually the thing that you couldn't stop thinking about will actually gross you out. I know it. I'm a survivor. I used to be a dairy addict, specifically cheese. I thought it was the best thing in the world. And now it grosses me out to even think about it. But there was a time where I thought it was the best thing ever. I would fantasize about it, right? So I have recovered, and I also have recovered from lupus, right? 18 years and counting now that I have been healthy because I changed my diet. So just remember that. And I hope that helps, because I know a lot of folks feel very ashamed and miserable when they relapse. And relapse is a part of recovery. Most people relapse many times before they finally stick with it. And so if you are relapsing, you can only relapse if you've started. So relapse shows me that you're getting better, because someone who hasn't tried can't relapse, right? So if you are relapsing, it means you are trying. And so when you relapse, you try to figure out why, you start over, and you keep doing that until it sticks, and you will get there. And if you're continuously relapsing, then follow the other things that I told you. Make sure that you are fixing your environment, getting the support, doing what you need to do to stay on track, because this is your life and you need to fight for it.